Good day, everyone, and welcome. I am Mikey with two E's. I'm also known as Metro Mikey. The two E's in my name stand for the environment and everyone, the two things that I care about most. I'm broadcasting with renewable energy right here from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And for those I've not friended yet, I'm a business and sustainability coach, founder of an aerial arts dance studio, a fitness trainer, and the proud owner of a sustainable salon where I specialize in eco-friendly platinum and blonding services. Today, I also have the honor of being the host of our GBC Live productions and MC for our Green Beauty community. So if you're watching live from home or work, please drop your name and where you're tuning in from in the chat, and feel free to ask questions or comment at any time. We love keeping you all updated, and I just have a few announcements before we jump into today's amazing guest interview. Earth Month is coming up, so we want to let you all know that we are doing our due diligence in preparing for such a momentous occasion this year, and we've got some exciting things brewing for the month of April. If you are looking for some ways to bring sustainability for the beauty industry to join us, stay tuned for some more details throughout the month. With our socials and our email blasts and our newsletter. You can utilize our Instagram that'll be linked in the comments, our Facebook, which will also be linked, and we have an email sign up for those wanting to get in with our newsletter. Next up, we have an engaging community meetup on March 24th. In preparation for Earth Month, we'll have materials such as an action toolkit to help facilitate getting us all back together. And there will be a link to sign up in the chat, and those will all be in the show notes if you're catching this on a replay. And finally, we would love to thank our guests today, Macro Oceans. We are giving a huge thank you to them for their generous donation to help support our organization and keep the conversation going of the importance of a more sustainable beauty industry. These donations help keep our programs alive. So if someone or you or someone you know may be interested in supporting our cause, we'll have a donation link in the chat, and those are always available in the show notes and on our website, greenbeautycommunity.com. So with that said, I would love to welcome James. Hi, how are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Macro Oceans.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to the Green Beauty community for pulling these conversations together. We were talking a little bit beforehand about how important it is to bring people together to talk about this stuff because all industries are multifaceted, and I think beauty even more so than most. So we have to bring people from the different sections in order to bring change and new product development. I got started with Macro Oceans in 2020. One of my lifetime friends, Matthew Perkins, reached out and said he was thinking about starting a business and would I be interested? And we just got obsessed with kelp. We started looking at both the regenerative profile of kelp, which grows there's no fertilizers, there's no pesticides, there's no land use. It's just ocean water and sunlight that allows it to grow, and the chemical richness of it. And we kept staring at ourselves and being like, why isn't the kelp industry bigger? And why aren't more people using this for more things? And we never really got to a satisfactory answer. In that, we always felt like there was more that could be done. And so that's what led us into working with kelp. And then from there, there's just a lot of great academic research about the skincare benefits of kelp. And it seemed like if we were going to get a kelp manufacturing business off the ground, the place that you would want to start is within beauty, where you have both, all of this academic data around the benefits, and then a consumer who is asking for high performance regenerative materials. And we felt like we could deliver on that promise. So that's how I got here.
That's amazing. I love hearing, as a skincare advocate myself, I love hearing about ways that we as the beauty industry, can impact for the greater good by using effective products. So for those who might not be aware of Macro Oceans, what are the products that any beauty professional could utilize or the consumers at home?
Totally. So we are an ingredient company. We sell at this point, a bioactive that has clinically proven hydrating, um, skin barrier improvement, and skin luminosity benefits. We did a clinical study with 30 people, actually 33 versus a placebo. It was run by a third party, double blind, all of that stuff. And then we have a lot of different formulators that are using this ingredient um, within different products, and are happy to, if there's, if you're out there and you're like, I would love a product, but I don't want to go through the process of formulating it myself, we have some options for you as well if you reach out. But it's all about harnessing the natural benefits of kelp um, for skincare benefits. Um, and then the other thing I'll say is that the two other things that make us unique is a focus on transparency and zero waste. So we put the name of the farmer that harvests our kelp in Alaska. We have a couple different farms we work with, but we crucially, we print the name on the bottle that we send out to you, and we put it on the certificate of analysis so that you and your manufacturer, you always have total visibility from the water to our manufacturing site to your manufacturing site. And then the other thing is our process is zero waste. So when we extract the bioactive sugars, which I can talk more about if you'd like, we are left with this kind of leftover kelp pulp. And we have a partner and customer called Ocean Made that makes these wonderful little seed starter pots with the leftover material. So if you've ever used like a plastic one or maybe a peat moss one, instead of peat moss, instead of plastic, you get to use leftover kelp pulp as your base for that material. And we're really excited to just kind of bring our vision for the future is a high performance, zero waste kelp economy, and you can kind of see it starting to come to life and walk and move around a little bit now.
Okay, so as gardening season is coming to a start, we're here in my area in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We have 180 days growing season, and I love gardening, to try to be a closed loop at home as well as in my salon. I'm super excited to, maybe reach out later and figure out where I can get those seed starters.
Yeah.
But hopefully that becomes a bigger thing too, because I think that that's really way better than a lot of the non-sustainable. But I also want to talk to you about the farmers because that just struck me as super interesting. Is there a list of like kelp farmers out there that you guys were sourcing?
Yeah, so we work primarily at this point with two farms, Alaska Ocean Farms and Seagrove Kelp. Both are based in Alaska. Both do a mixture of kelp farming and fishing or other aquaculture interests. And kelp kind of provides a nice balance. Basically, the kelp is growing and being harvested during a part of the year that is not fishing season. And it's a way to connect back to local Alaskan communities. And then the other thing I'll say is that there are other farms that are active in Alaska that we would love to be buying from, but obviously we have to get to a certain scale to be able to do that. But there's a community forming, and really what that community is waiting for is more people to be using these ingredients in formulas today. And as we got into the potential of starting this business, one of the things that we saw was a need for just like product investment in, if you're a salon owner today, you probably don't have the time. I mean, Mike, you seem a little bit unique. You have a lot of interests and you can go deep on a lot of subjects, but most people are probably like, look, I'm having enough trouble running my business. How am I going to be an expert on how to extract, fucoidan and laminarin from kelp? And so that's the role that we're trying to play is we kind of tailor the extracts to your applications. But we understand that what you want is something that is both high performance and good for the environment. And we don't force you to choose between those two things. What I always like to say is, if you were hiring for somebody for a job, you wouldn't, most of us require that they are both competent and not a jerk. And you wouldn't compromise on either of those things. And yet when it comes to product buying, we're much more willing to kind of say, okay, well, I don't feel good about how they do it, but I'll still work with them. We think people only do that because they don't have good choices. And we're trying to provide a good choice there.
Sounds like one of the best choices. If somebody wasn't quite aware, because I fall into that camp, beyond, tuning into this webinar and hopefully, sharing our clips on socials, is there a way that we can help facilitate the reach for macro oceans?
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of salon owners think about having their own brand of skincare and beauty ingredients. We would love it if you included our ingredient in that formulation. If you're thinking about that at all, please reach out and we will love to help you make that a reality. Even if it's just the beginning. And then the other thing I'll say is that I've talked a lot about the hydrating benefits of kelp, but to give people a little bit of a peek for what's ahead, anti-inflammation is another key area where kelp really just the academic literature, you read paper after paper from institution after institution, and they're really great. And we hope to do some clinical work on that this year to be able to show, hey, it's not just somebody else's kelp extract. Our kelp extract also has those clinical benefits. And I think that's a place where post-procedural or that might be more useful in a salon context than just hydration. And we'd love to be your ingredient partner, your hero ingredient, if you're making that there. And then we also have some great brands that we've been partnering with and working with today. So if you have more of a retail setup for beauty products, we also have some brands like Sea Soaked Skin out of Washington. Project Reef is coming out with a product soon that will incorporate our ingredient, and so you can work with those brands as well, and make sure you let them know that you're excited about their work with Macro Oceans. I'm sure they'd love to hear that too.
That is so cool. Great advice there. Something that piqued my interest is, creating our own skincare lines. So, there's a lot of talk in the beauty industry about, white label, black label, creating your own things. And in that conversation, I'll just bring it up that just because we can white label something, which is reaching out to a manufacturer, creating a formulation that aligns with the things that they have available, it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's safe, sane, or effective. So it's really cool that you brought that up in terms of people who might be thinking of going that route. And if the green beauty community can help anyone listening or watching that on a replay, get in touch with Macro Oceans. I'm sure that we can do that, or have discussions about what kind of things would be possible or plausible in that. We could hopefully facilitate that conversation. But I want to kind of turn it around, and a fact that has always stuck with me, and why I'm super excited to have this conversation about like kelp and the ocean and macro oceans in general is a lot of times we're told the Amazon rainforest and trees and plants are the lungs of the earth, and they, reduce carbon by X amount, and we shouldn't cut down the trees, which we shouldn't cut down the trees, for reasons, many reasons, too many to name here. But the rainforests and plants are usually only responsible for about 10 to 15% of carbon reduction, versus the ocean on any given year is responsible for 20 to 25 up to 33% of carbon reduction. So tell us a little bit about the importance of the ocean, how you're keeping your closed loop sustainable, and then maybe walk us through the process about how you got to zero waste.
Yeah. So in general, algae provides a couple of benefits for ocean water. So the first is that it pulls carbon out of the ocean water and into the algae. And the second is that it also cleans that water. So it acts like a sponge, and it pulls out all of the nutrients, chemicals, whatever that are in there. And that's actually one of the reasons that we've chosen to be in Alaska, is that the Alaska bays are far from industrial sites, so we don't end up with problems with heavy metals. Those problems are solvable, but it's extra chemistry work and it's extra time that we can be spending on other stuff. And I do want to be careful here. I'm talking about studies that others have done, not that we've done on our own kelp farms, but the National Oceanic Administration has seen that kelp farms reduce ocean acidification because it's pulling the extra carbon adds acid acidification to the ocean. The kelp pulls that out. It also provides ocean habitat for wild ocean creatures. If you think about how terrestrial farming happens, you take the Amazon rainforest, you cut down all the trees, you put farms in its place. Those farms are monocrop. So you're getting one thing again and again and again. You're killing a bunch of species that might require other things. That's not what it's like when you're farming algae. In Alaska, I think it's Fish and Wildlife. Don't quote me on that. But the Alaskan state agency that is monitoring this will only allow you to plant species of algae that grow natively within 25 kilometers, or maybe it's 50 kilometers. I think it's 50. So you're not adding any new species to the environment, but then you're also not tearing anything out. So you put two buoys, you put some string up, you hang effectively the kelp seedlings from those strings, and it grows into the water. So ocean wildlife can continue to live and thrive and actually use that as habitat until the end of the growing season. You take the kelp back out of the water. So it is one of the lowest touch methods of farming that is available to us as a species. And what we're really trying to do here is move more and more of the farming that's happening in places where it interrupts wildlife habitat into things like kelp. And then you kind of mentioned some of the carbon drawdown benefits. I think wild ocean algae, it definitely has those. The research is a little bit more mixed on farmed algae. And I don't want to overstate, I think one of the things that has not been a benefit for our industry is that people want to claim benefits that have not been proven. There is a theory that, as the algae grows, it sheds plant matter. That plant matter goes to the bottom of the ocean and it gets sequestered. We personally are not claiming any negative carbon drawdown benefit because of that. What we're asking people to believe right now is that, look, if your choice is between buying something that is grown on land and uses fertilizers, pesticides, et cetera, versus something that's grown in the water and doesn't use those things, which do you think is better? But we're not making a specific carbon negative claim at this point. Although definitely as we evolve, we want to continue to invest in life cycle analysis, data, in the same way that we've done on the efficacy side of our business. So when we sit across from a cosmetic chemist, we show them the charts and we say, look, here's how we know this is a benefit from your skin. Over time, we're going to do the same thing on the impact side of the business as well.
That is amazing. And there's so many places that I could go off of that, but it's great to showcase your authenticity and your transparency and not trying to claim something that we don't know or may not know yet. But with the excitement of all the farming, you harvest that, you go through your processes, and then you have your product. So I know that we were talking about the zero waste, but let's talk about how you get your product out, to the public or the masses or the production or manufacturing companies.
Yeah. So we use only green chemistry. So at harvest, the seaweed farmers that are our suppliers harvest the seaweed. They ship to us, however much we've agreed to. We do some grinding up of the seaweed. Think about tea. You don't necessarily want to use the whole leaf. It's better if it's ground up. You get kind of more extraction. We then target laminarin and fucoidin, which are two complex polysaccharides or complicated sugars that show up again and again in the literature as having skincare benefits. And we isolate those from everything else that's in the seaweed. And then we have leftover seaweed pulp that then is used in the little gardening pots. Once we've got the laminarin and fucoidin isolated, we then need to make it shelf stable. So we add it to some glycerin, and that's what we ship to a cosmetic chemist. And then it really varies in terms of how people then use that. Some of the brands that we work with do their own manufacturing. Um, at a couple of them even do it at their own house. And these folks are normally a little bit earlier on. As you get bigger, it's really, really common. I mean, you kind of mentioned some of the discussion about white labeling. I mean, almost all of the large independent brands that I know are working with a third party manufacturer to manufacture their products. They're oftentimes working with a third party formulator to formulate their products, just because it's so hard to have all of that expertise in a single person. And then so we work with all of those people on how they want to use this ingredient. We see it a lot in skin creams, hand creams, facial mists. I think kind of a pure ingredient that I would think about here is a hyaluronic acid, or some of the soothing effects I think are kind of closer into the aloe range of, and that's how we see people using it. And then of course those ultimately get made into bottles of things that get shipped to wherever people buy fine beauty products.
That is amazing. So you've brought us right to the present. I'm here with you. The present is a little crazy. Are there challenges, with current geopolitical, socioeconomic landscapes that you're having to navigate through? If so, what are they?
Yeah, well, so we are lucky in that we have a fully domestic supply chain. So the farmers we work with are in Alaska. Um, and I view that as one of the benefits for us. I think in some ways we're an American manufacturing story. Um, and so I think some of the folks out there, actually, a couple of the main way that this is hitting our business is that we have products that have decided, our companies have decided to use our ingredient, that are relying on ingredient suppliers overseas, and they cannot get their products from overseas. And we, of course, can't go to market until they can go to market. But yeah, I mean, it is obviously a very hectic time. And if folks are looking for a way to kind of shorten their supply chains and buy more domestically, I mean, that's one of the benefits for us. Our farmers are in Alaska. Our manufacturing site is in Sacramento. There have been a couple of times where we've actually been able to drive samples or product to customers just because they're, one or two towns away, are in the California valleys. So always nice when you can do a handoff personally.
That's actually really cool because I know in my journey, like I've been in the beauty industry for 15 years. While I was in beauty school, I started learning about some of the things that I, would consume food wise. And I got very nervous about the things that I was putting in my body, which then led me to be very conscientious in my salon business of what I was putting on people's bodies. Long story short, there were times in my 15-year career where I just felt so hopeless, and no matter what's going on, I just love reiterating this point that even in some of the most turbulent times in any of our lives, we can always find a silver lining. So I'm actually glad to hear that, like, in a weird way, we found one with your company.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I would also say, I would just encourage folks. I think I have never been a salon owner or a beauty brand founder, but one of the things that I see is that the questions and the pushes that people like you bring to, like, the beauty industry makes it possible for us to have a business. And so all of our first introductions to contract manufacturers came from brand founders. And then, I would say a large percentage of the time, maybe 40% of the time when we're being included, it's because the person on the other side of it is saying what you're saying, a version of what you said to me, to the person that is formulating. And they're saying, well, I want this to be from plant-based sources. I want it to be good for the environment. I want it to be regenerative. And that shows up for us, right? Because otherwise we don't have a market to speak to. So it does matter, even if it doesn't feel like, I don't know if those people think that they're making change when they ask for those things, but it shows up.
I'm glad that you brought attention to that. And just to bring it full circle before we go on to the next thing, the skincare company that I utilize and have been for quite some time has great ingredient lists. They're, FDA compliant in California, of all places, which can be some of the most strict, laws in the country. But the thing that really drew me to them in the beginning was they came out with an SPF that was reef safe. So
Yeah.
like bringing it right back to the ocean, I never feel super sad to like put SPF on and then go into the ocean where, coral bleaching is happening every day. So
Sure.
to hear that skincare companies can ask the questions, utilize companies like yours, and still bring it full circle and not be a detriment to the ocean with their skincare products is just this conversation is making my heart so full. With that said, what's next for Macro Oceans? What's on the horizon? What are you working on? What can you tell us? Give us some insider details.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I already mentioned that we are taking a good look at anti-inflammation. I'm not exactly sure how that will show up in our product lineup, whether that will be additional claims on the same product or new claims in a new product. We have to be guided by the science there. But then we see all of our new product work as being focused on places where we can offer high performance and um, sustainability at the same time. And so there are a short list of places where we see an overlap between those two things, and those are the places where we're going to focus. Um, and I will definitely be back when we have new products to announce.
Good. I will be so excited for that. I'm already jumping at what we've learned, and I can't wait for episode 2 with Macro Oceans. But something that I was just thinking about, and just maybe because I'm a hair nerd, I know that polysaccharides are very effective in curl health. So there are many, many people out there who, have gone their entire lifetimes not being able to manage their curls, and now we're starting to find formulations that are vegan, sustainable, healthy for our hair and also for our scalp. I don't know if that is something that you've thought about, or like, is there a hair product coming from Macro Oceans, or like, an ingredient that could be used in hair products?
I think that's a really good observation, and I'll leave it at that. Look, we kind of culturally try not to talk too much about new products before they are done. I think the same thing that leads us to make a distinction between our own life cycle analysis work versus what other people have done leads us to kind of say, hey, until we can offer it, we don't offer it. Let's do the work first and then deliver. But I think absolutely the more I understand the beauty industry and the different use cases within the beauty industry, I feel like the list of things that we could do has gotten longer, not shorter. And it's all about picking the very best ones. And so I hope before too long we'll have a much broader product lineup than just the single beauty ingredient today. Folks can go to news.macrooceans.com. They can sign up for news-macrooceans.com and sign up for email updates, and they'll see stuff there, and can give you guys a sneak peek when we're a little closer on that stuff.
That is so great and leads me right into, if somebody was a salon owner or a hairstylist or, an independent contractor in the beauty industry, makeup artist, somebody, how can they reach out and find you?
Yeah, so our website is macro-oceans.com. We're also on Instagram as macro_oceans. You can DM us there, and we'll send you a DM back in a day or so. And then I'm James at macrooceans.com. If you want to send me an email, I will get back to you as soon as I can.
All right, beautiful. And I believe on the website there's also a hello at
There is. That
macrooceans.com.
also comes to me. So if you want to, you can email me from 2 different email addresses.
Yes, all roads lead to James. We love that. Thank you so much for the information so far. I just want to point out that if you are in the beauty industry and you're watching this or catching the replay somewhere, the things that came up in this conversation are great things to talk to, your colleagues, your boss, your employer, your salon owner, your beauty professional, your mentors. These conversations, as James said earlier, are what gets the ball rolling on keeping the world sustainable, eco-friendly, and safe, for all of us. With that said, James, is there anything that I should have asked you that I forgot to ask?
I don't think so. You got a really comprehensive list. We'll talk more again. The one question I have for you is I would love at some point to know from salon folks where they are finding the beauty products that they choose to work with. Um, so it would be great to hear more about that from your community, if they're willing to share.
That is great. So if you're watching live, you can leave comments. We'll make sure to add them in the show notes. If you're catching on a replay on one of our socials, definitely feel free to, leave a comment on Instagram. You can go to our website, greenbeautycommunity.com, register or log in and find the forums if you need to ask the questions there. There's many ways to reach that. I will just say, it's funny because my final question, whenever I'm doing, a personalized interview is, do you have any questions for me? So that was great that you did. I know that there are many different age demographics, but something in the beauty industry, many different age demographics in the beauty industry. But I think something that uh, almost every stylist I'm aware of utilizes would be one of the supply distributor stores like Cosmoprof, Sally's, Salon Centric, and then Instagram is still like the number one place for beauty professionals. And I coach people all the time to like go out and branch out into other things, because all the hairdressers talking to the hairdressers are great, but we're not talking to the consumers. We're not talking to the people who need to hear us. So if you have a question, like posting something on your Instagram would probably generate the biggest leads. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
All right, of course. Hopefully somebody has a better answer than me, because I'm sure that there's one out there. But with that said, I want to thank everyone who joined live. Thank you for your time and attention. We know time is the most valuable resource, so spending it with us always means just so much to us. If you feel moved, you can always go to thegreenbeautycommunity.com and hear live. And in the replay, we'll have a link attached. We are a registered 501c nonprofit organization. We function solely because of donations like James and Macro Oceans give to us, and viewers like you. We try to bring immense value on these webinars, and then also on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, website. So if you want to keep seeing these, we are so thankful for any donation that you can provide in the future. You can catch me on Instagram at Metro Mikey. I'm actually at Metro Mikey on all platforms, and you can always hit up the Green Beauty Community on all platforms except Instagram, where we're Green Beauty Community Foundation, because somebody already stole the Green Beauty Community before. Until our next webinar, I hope everyone has a great, sustainable, and safe life. Bye, everyone.